trying to prevent him from falling into an abyss of no return. "He's my son. Baron, what could I do? I couldn't abandon him," she said, with a mix of sadness and resignation. Baron felt a mix of anger, shame, and deep helplessness. It was as if everything he had built was based on an invisible sacrifice. Had never wanted to see in an attempt to understand, he asked her why she had never told him the truth, why she had allowed him to live in that lie. Martha looked at him with tenderness and told him she always wanted to give him a chance to live without the weight of his father's mistakes that she preferred to see him free from, the burden she had to bear. The chapter concludes with Baron leaving his mother's apartment speechless, his mind a whirlwind of emotions. He feels a heartbreaking guilt and confusion, but also a growing anger toward Josh, who, far from helping Martha, seemed to sink her deeper into a cycle of sacrifice and exhaustion. Baron realizes that the family situation is much more complicated than he had imagined, and he feels he must do something to rectify what he has ignored for so long. But the weight of that responsibility overwhelms him and leaves him trapped in a web of emotions. He still doesn't know how to resolve the impact of the truth revealed by his mother. Wouldn't relent for Baron the image of his father, whom he had always idealized as a hard-working and dedicated man, now transformed into that of someone entangled in deception, a man who had betrayed his family's trust. As Baron walked to his car that night, a silent fury took hold of him. Martha's revelations had left him confused and disoriented. Not only had he lost the image of his father, but also his confidence in his own success. Everything seemed to wobble, and guilt consumed him, but above all, his anger was directed at one person, Josh. Josh's younger brother had become a stranger in his life, someone Baron barely knew anything about for years. The relationship between them had crumbled at some point during Josh's adolescence, when the paths each had chosen became irreconcilable, while Baron struggled to get ahead to leave behind the stigma of his childhood and build something he could be proud of. Josh seemed to sink deeper into trouble, dragging Martha down in the process, but until now, Baron had never considered the depth of that distance, nor the weight it represented for their mother. That same night, Baron locked himself in his office, determined to find Josh and confront him. He could no longer bear the guilt alone, nor could he tolerate the thought of his brother dragging their mother into a life of work and sacrifice that he himself had abandoned years ago. After a few hours of searching and making some calls, Baron got Josh's address. He lived in a rundown neighborhood, in a small and neglected building far removed from the world of luxury. Baron had become accustomed to the next day. In the late afternoon, Baron headed to the place where the walls of the building were stained and cracked, and the lights flickered in the hallways. Baron could hardly recognize his brother in that environment. The contrast with his own life was so drastic that he felt like an intruder. He climbed the stairs, his heart pounding with a mix of anger and anxiety. As he approached Josh's apartment door, when he knocked, he heard noises from the other side. Josh opened the door reluctantly, and upon seeing Baron, looked at him with a mix of surprise and disdain. "What are you doing here?" he asked, not even bothering to hide the hostility in his voice. Baron held back his rage, took a deep breath, and told him they needed to talk. Josh let him in, slamming the door shut. With a bang that echoed in the small space of the apartment was a reflection of Josh's life, messy with old furniture and scattered objects in every corner. There were empty bottles on the table, and the air was thick with a rancid smell. Baron looked around, feeling a repulsion he tried to mask, but when he finally looked at his brother, all the resentment he had bottled up exploded. "How can you live like this? Don't you realize what you're doing to Mom?" Baron began, his voice firm but laden with reproach. "Do you know how hard she works to support you? You're taking her life away while you keep sinking into your own problems." Josh looked at him, initially surprised by the harshness of his words, but soon his expression shifted to one of defiance. With a bitter laugh, he stood up and approached Baron, looking him straight in the eye. "And what do you know, Baron? Do you think you can come here and judge me? You left, brother. You abandoned us to live your life of luxury. I'm the one who stayed with her. the one who bore the weight of everything you wanted to forget. You have no right to come here and tell me how to live. Baron felt anger swell within him, but he tried to remember that doesn't justify what you're doing. Why don't you work? Why do you have to depend on her? Like a parasite, Mom deserves to rest, not carry you. Josh let out a bitter laugh. Work? What world are you living in, Baron? Do you think everyone has your opportunities? She always protected you and always treated you like you were special, like you were her great hope. Do you know what it's like to live as the child who was left behind and who has nothing while you went off and forgot about everything? Baron felt a knot in his throat, but he couldn't allow Josh to place all the blame on him. I worked hard to get ahead. Josh, none of this was easy for me either, really. Josh replied sarcastically from where I was standing. It seems you've had everything you wanted. Mom has spent her life sacrificing for you while I tried to survive. Now you come here as if you were the hero, like you could fix everything. You know nothing about what I've had to endure. At that moment, Baron realized how deep Josh's resentment ran to him. Baron wasn't a brother, but someone who had had the privilege of escaping, of seeking his own path, while the family remained behind. Josh blamed him not only for leaving, but for the fact that Baron had achieved what he could never attain. This isn't about me, Josh, Baron said in a soft yet firm tone. It's about Mom. She's exhausted. She can't keep working like this. If you want things to change, you need to take responsibility. She shouldn't have to keep cleaning bathrooms to pay for your mistakes. Josh looked at him, but this time his expression had changed. Instead of defiance, his face reflected a mix of anger and pain. Do you think? I don't know. Do you think I don't see how she's fading away? But you've never been here. You don't know what it's like for her when you're not around, when you're the son who made it, and I'm the one who only brings problems. Baron felt that Josh's words cut deep, but the tension in the air was still palpable. There was a painful truth in Josh's words, something he couldn't deny. You may be right, Josh. I may not have been here. I may not have seen what was happening, but now I'm here, and I want to fix this. Help me do it. Josh stared at Baron for a few seconds, a pause that felt infinite, as if he were assessing his brother's intentions. But instead of accepting his proposal, his face hardened again. I don't need your help. I don't need you coming here to redeem yourself, as if you could save everyone. Leave, Baron. Go back to your perfect life. Baron tried to reason with him, but it was futile. Josh wasn't ready to accept his help, nor acknowledge his role in their mother's sacrifice. With an unbearable weight on his chest, Baron left the apartment, aware that his brother was trapped in a spiral of resentment and self-destruction that he probably didn't want to escape. As he walked to his car, Baron felt a profound desolation. His family was more broken than he had imagined, and he, with his success and achievements, had become a stranger to them. Guilt and helplessness mingled within him, and he understood that the distance he had built not only separated him from his roots, but had also created an abyss that was now difficult to bridge. With the weight of that truth, Baron realized that although his brother was unwilling to change, he could not give up. He had to find a way to free his mother from that burden, to somehow help her regain the peace and dignity she so deserved. The confrontation